Well, good afternoon. Welcome to another video. I wanted to put out a video about the basics. I always like to do the basics. The idea that I'm not separate from what I think I see. And I'm only ever responding to thoughts in my own mind, not to situations and events that seem to be out there, which are only the catalysts for allowing me, or presenting me rather, with an opportunity to choose how it is I want to see them, through the eyes of fear or through the eyes of love. If I'm seeing through the eyes of fear, then obviously there's an opportunity for healing, and the correction can take place when I'm defenselessly and willingly open enough to feel how it is that my choices have affected me, and to use that feeling and get in touch with that inner depth that feeling takes me to, for the prayer of the heart, for the healing of the mind that believes it's separate from God. Now that prayer, actually, the prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes that it's separate from God, is specifically stated that way in the Course. And it is the prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes it is separate from God, which was put there by God himself, which is at the very, 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 very bottom of your heart, which to reach it requires the very, 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 very plumbed depths of your integrity as the mechanism for the honesty to bring it forth. That honesty obviously runs parallel with the idea that the world I see holds nothing that I want. There's nothing in the world that I value, etc., etc. But I thought I'd like to cover the basics. I had somebody the other day say to me, "Oh, I've just found your videos." I've been doing videos for years, as far as I can tell, whatever years means, but eons perhaps, millennia, whatever that means. And they said, "I've just found your videos are incredibly helpful." And of course, I'm in my own head. Since we've been doing the Zoom meetings, I haven't been doing so many videos because they're all recorded and they're put up there. And I think the capacity for that interaction and that component of what would you call it, joining in an action of collaborative guidance, perhaps, is every bit as powerful and every bit as useful as a reference for the pursuit of spiritual liberation as anything else. If you're like me, I mean, I don't know what's out there now. I haven't read a book for many, many years, but when I was pursuing my own inner inquiries, my own investigations into truth, there was books by Dan Millman and Eckhart Tolle and Khalil Gibran and Richard Bach and a few authors like that. That amongst, and I'm talking about in the Western world, and I mean apart from the classical literature of like the Gitas and the Upanishads, which contains the Gitas, and the Bible in various printings and things like that. But apart from those books, you had to try to fathom the depths of where your mind was directing you through this mush and haze of this whole New Age thing, which sprung up in the 1980s, and was prolific up until the 90s, and which is now, thank God, dispelling. We're kind of done with all that tarot cards and crystals and nonsense that you seem to be this leading in to a greater emergence of self-awareness through direct and more pure spiritual instruction. But of course, there are still people that get caught up in that merry-go-round of the New Age and find themselves collecting rocks And I'm not saying that I haven't had quite a profound experience in holding a crystal at one time, but I mean, it has all the meaning that I give it. And of course, knowing that now and having a greater knowledge about that, it's not the meaning that I'm looking for. And the journey always goes forward, and you have to let go of the stepping stone you're on to move forward onto the next one, along with everything that it contained and taught you, and to bring you to the here and the now of the illumination of the mind. So the basics. There's nothing outside of my mind. I'm just talking to myself, reminding myself what's valuable for me, what I need to hear in this journey to keep me true to my chosen discipline, I suppose. If that's helpful to anyone else, terrific. But these videos are really a way for me to stay on track and remind myself what I'm about, because the pull of the world and the corruption of and the subtle corruption of the residue of ego is just as cunning and baffling after enlightenment as it was before. Except before I didn't know. I thought it was me. But did a good job on it. So nothing outside of my own mind, finger on my nose, and only here and now. There's no past or future, finger on my nose for that one too. Here and now, there's nothing outside of my own mind. I'm responding and reacting and having emotional catastrophes in relationship to things that I project out there onto something that's actually meaningless. Has no meaning at all. Two people fighting. What does it mean? Doesn't mean anything. Two flies having a buzz together. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything, but it's exactly the same thing. Two flies probably look at two people fighting and think, oh, they're having a buzz. They have no clue. Why give it a meaning if you don't know what it is? Right? Just because you've been taught and grown up to believe that this is good and this is bad and this is right and this is wrong, it doesn't mean that at all. And when you realise that you don't remember, not that you don't know, but when you realise you don't remember the meaning of life, you can backdrop everything against that. I don't know the meaning of anything I see. Therefore, why give it one? It's only going to bind me up into that practice of projecting meaning onto things again rather than to free me from it. And of course, that's our objective in salvation, is to liberate ourselves from the necessity for the guidance of our avatar through the use of concepts. It's not required at all. This meaning and that meaning, and somewhere I'll weave my way in between all the meanings I've given everything, hopefully to die healthy. No one ever dies healthy. It's not a thing that happens. When you die, you die, whether you're sick and decrepit or whether you're fit and Superman. It's not a thing that involves health. And it's also not a thing that involves sickness. Seen rightly, it's not a thing that involves you at all, since it's something that actually isn't. But you're going to have to experience that one for yourself. Which is what brings us to miracle-mindedness in preparation for being revelation ready. Now, this is a very simple little two-step. If you're a student of A Course in Miracles, you're probably familiar with the idea of being miracle-minded. I don't know, I'm just going to let it be a miracle, right? You get to a point where you just kind of get tired of trying to work the world out and work everything out and how to fix this relationship, that relationship. I don't know. I'm going to let it be a miracle. And I take my hands off the wheel, I step back, and I allow the miracle to occur in an open place where I refuse to fill in the gap. I refuse to put my 2 cents worth in there, and that's going to bring up all the angst of the temptation to want to put my 2 cents worth in there that I've trained myself to do before. All of a sudden I'm going against the grain of my own narrative, and changes are going to occur as long as I don't continue to play the same part that I'd always played. So I leave the gap open. I refuse to interfere, and I allow the Holy Spirit to do what needs to be done as a corrective principle in my mind, which is actually active since we're living in the resurrection, and that's another whole story, and allow the relationships and everything else to just tumble and fall into place where they're meant to be, not where I think they're meant to be, and which will free me up also from the idea that I need to be in control of anything in this world, as an idea of being on a journey or being in a relationship or any of that kind of stuff. Stuff's a kind word for it. So we're getting to the point, and this is something I like with our videos in our Zoom meetings. We're getting to the point where there's a bunch of the guys now in our Zoom meetings. We had a whole bunch of people at the beginning that were all keen and into it and everything. And of course the dead wood gets cut away and just falls away automatically as I declare the certainty of my mind about the particulars of the offering that I'm making, which is salvation, to my dream. Right? Now, I'm not making any kind of offering that hasn't been made before. Every enlightened mind, every spiritual teacher down through the ages, including to this age, 2022, is offering an uncompromising gift from the certainty of their own experience of self, that the denial of self is not only transformable, right? You can free yourself from your karma of it, but has been already transformed for you. If you were born more than 2,222 years ago, let's say as a theoretical figure, you're kind of screwed. You were sitting there waiting for Jesus, or waiting for the chosen one to come and tell you all about forgiveness. And now, of course, all that's required is a good understanding of forgiveness and a willingness to apply it, and a willingness to accept it by applying it. So there's a bunch of us now in the group who are very close to, well, when I say that, it's a kind of a relative term, but who are closing in on a mastery of miracle-mindedness, despite the fact there may still yet be resistance to the idea in the notion of saying yes, or in the notion of actually saying yes and meaning it and actually following up with the doing, because the motto of the course is listen, learn and do. And that's about to get more and more real as we go along. And whether you're in our group or not, you'll realise that you cannot say yes to what is asked of you by the Spirit, which is only ever asked of you for your own good, and not actually mean it, not actually have any intention to follow up. So, and I guess the road to hell is paved with good intentions, but when I say intention, I'm meaning more of an honesty of will rather than a dishonest will. I say yes because I think I'm expected to say yes, because it's a spiritual thing that I'm learning about. But there's actually a yes which is a no, and then there's a yes which is a yes. If my yes is a no, if I'm saying it and it's just lip service, then I'm going to get the results of that, which is going to be an increase in the tension and the anxiety and the denial that's festering around the opportunity to release myself from it, which is going to further try to bog me down into it, to maintain allegiance to whatever lingering ego hallmarks might still be there, hidden beneath. But as we seek for our blocks and find them, part and parcel of recognising our bad habits in saying, yes, I want to do that, and not actually wanting to do that, is part of it. You know, like, you have to realise you're a liar. You have to realise to the full extent how full of shit you are. There, it's like Jesus says in lesson 200. above all else, I want the peace of God. Well, it doesn't take much to look around and see how many people say that and how few actually have that peace. It's like you can't bullshit God. Right? Try to hear that. You cannot bullshit God. Right? God doesn't even know what bullshit is. If you're still trying to put a square peg, if you're trying to force a square peg into a round hole, God's still only going to present the round hole. You can say yes and hold up all the square pegs pretending they're a round peg all you fucking want. You're still going to find yourself here in this physical vessel, doomed to die, etc., etc., as an idea of reliving the dream or revisiting a lesson that will repeat until it is learned. Just because you feel like you're a jolly good fellow or a jolly good person or whatever doesn't mean you get the golden ticket. You have to do the work. You have to fulfill your obligation to the atonement, which is your willingness to extend God's love through the action of forgiveness unconditionally. Unconditionally to yourself, both fingers on your nose. It's a double finger moment. Not one of those, but that would apply equally, but a double finger moment on your nose. So anyway, whilst I'm talking about our Zoom meetings, contact Tina Tyler, T-Y-N-A, Tyler, T-Y-L-E-R, in my friends list, and she will add you to our meeting group, our meeting list of attendees, if you feel like you're up for a boot camp like no other. If you just want to fluff around the edges and play at being spiritual, then don't bother. Not interested. This is full attendance, full participation, and we call bullshit a lot. Our meeting circle, our golden circle, our place where we are is a place where we come specifically knowing that we are prepared to be addressed. Not that we're pointing out each other's foibles. I mean, that's not the kind of judgment the Holy Spirit would have us learn. But we are definitely there with the idea of, I'm here to learn about the correction required so that I can begin to participate in a greater means or a greater availability of light communication. Which is natural, just like that. And there are people all around the world now who, when I open my mind like that, begin to recognize the frequency of it in their own conscious association within themselves and respond to it and react to it accordingly, sometimes coughing, sometimes laughing, sometimes vomiting, sometimes falling all over the place, but not without the recognition, of course, that these such things are the gifts of the Spirit. And I had a lovely conversation with my friend Lloyd Lapp, about that recently, where he said he and his beloved were thrown apart from each other or thrown across the room or some such thing by the energetic interaction with spirit that they were having, which is an active happening. And I have seen people thrown across the room. I have seen people who are involved in a group of A Course in Miracles students in a conscious, fully participative way. Well, I'm not talking about a study group here. We're talking about the next level. So thrown around the room, and I myself have been knocked off my feet many countless times, as if somebody just kicks the back of my knees behind me and I collapse into a heap at the reaction to the light within. And I was told the other day that I'm one of the only people apparently on social media that talk about the physical reactions through the body to the re-emerging light. And apparently Joel Goldsmith talks about it, and I think it was Tina herself actually who told me that, and she was quite thrilled to find somebody else as a classic reference who talks quite prolifically about the reactions of the physical avatar, the physical body, which was originally made as a defense mechanism or representing a defense mechanism against the light, being offered a new ability to choose again, but which, because this is a physical resurrection, including healing, including all sorts of phenomena, including all sorts of stuff, don't expect that the body won't undergo shifts according with the shifts that are going on in the mind. It happens, okay? So metaphysics is a real thing. I could probably rattle off a list of all sorts of things that have occurred to, through, and around me in the last 26, 27 years in my journey with A Course in Miracles and Course in Miracles students and teachers. And I count myself in both of those categories, student and teacher. I'm not arrogant enough to know that I'm not a student, and not falsely humble enough to not declare myself as a teacher of God. And of course, those are earthly terminologies, but eventually you transcend even all of those things to declare yourself as the living Christ, which I indeed am, along with you. And I say that quite happily now, whereas at one time, perhaps 20 odd years ago, that might have seemed somewhat preposterous, or I might have stumbled trying to get those words out. But the guiltlessness of God's Son reigns prolific within me and is my reality, as it is yours. Representing it on earth is the only purpose I have. And all other purposes that may yet still appear as part of the residue of my denial, of course, come annexed under that as part and parcel of the new purpose overall, or the true purpose that I have stood up for and declared as what it is that I'm about now, in collaboration with other mighty companions, and perhaps you, if you're just starting out, mighty companion, as we exit this world together laughing. If you haven't yet worked it out, this is the Departure Lounge. Welcome to it. And there's a bit in the Course I love where Jesus says, those who are certain can afford to wait, and wait patiently. And pretty much that's what I'm doing. I have no other agenda or no other anything going on other than that waiting now. Not interested in a physical relationship, physical accomplishments, any of those things. Obviously, I still have a physical participation to a certain dimension that enables me to pay the bills and put food in this physical thing, which has just undergone another radical moment of healing and realignment, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, Father, miraculously. Having healed it, the mind, my mind, self, of an idea of rheumatism, or whatever it was, rheumatoid arthritis. I had had an injury which triggered something as a mental response to it, in classic terms, where inflammation and all that sort of stuff was the resulting effect. And at the time of the injury, I heard the Spirit speak to me very clearly and said, don't do that. And I still went ahead and did it. And of course was injured. But it's been a 12-month thing. And then in the last few days, and I really don't know how it looks, but in the last few days, my daughter asked me to shave my beard, and not my mustache, but I did that anyway, actually. Shave my beard, or shave the to trim up my avatar here, to what she remembers more prominently, I guess, as Dad, rather than some hairy old guy from the bush. And in doing that, there cannot not come about the process of the relinquishment of some element of self-identity, which of course brings the relinquishment of physical association with that, which brought on a flu-like or a cold-like experience for a couple of days, and is resulting now, this is the 4th day, I think, is resulting now I'm perfectly healed and whole as God created me, notwithstanding what seems to be sickness and whatever going on. But the healing of that as an idea of transformation, not sickness, right? Transformation. And of course, with it, the miraculous nature of it takes absolutely everything else into account on a cellular level, and the inflammation and everything has disappeared as well. And I'm feeling like the avatar has taken a 20-year step backwards. So, along with my good looks. But getting a bit carried away. But don't expect that the body will not undergo shifts that you can call healing shifts or realignment shifts or whatever, as the mind also undergoes shifts in consciousness. Right? The more honesty and integrity with the prayer of the heart for the healing of the mind that believes in separation, the greater the ability to maintain focus on true purpose and to be able to call true purpose to account in moments of temptation to perceive myself as a physical entity, sick or healthy. Both sides of the coin, not interested in either. Sickness or health. They can both fuck off 2 fingers on the... Anyway, that's enough. I feel like I'm sidetracking a little bit here from where I started off, but it's the case sometimes with these spiritual talks. They just sort of take a gentle meandering from one kind of thing to another, and they're a journey within themselves, really. So, all right, I love you. Peace. Thank you for joining, and I would love to see you guys at the Zoom meeting. Remember, ideas are increased by sharing. So if you think you've gotten something out of this video or it's been helpful in any way at all, please share it. Please tag people in it, share it, whatever goes on out there in illusion land, in the Matrix these days. And I'll see you soon. Peace.